Real Country 1430 AM and 1073 FM WRDN. Good morning. I'm Brian Winnekins, and joining us this morning, Steve Wilkens. He's the agronomy manager for the eastern and central portions of the United States for Golden Harvest Seeds. And we're going to chat with Steve, get an update on last year's growing season and plans for the upcoming season. And thank you to our newsmaker interview sponsors, including the Animal Wellness Center of Buffalo Valley, also Compeer Financial and Annabis Silo. Steve, thanks for joining us. Well, if we take out the pandemic, let's talk about the 2020 growing season. Not too bad, really. Pretty good growing season for corn and soybean farmers.
Yeah, thank you, Brian. This year, as in so many, is really a microcosm of where are you in the Corn Belt, and for those of us in the Wisconsin, I would just say general upper Midwest area, we had a pretty good one. Certainly, we had our challenges, but we escaped some of the weather events, say like the derecho, some of the extreme drought that our Western Corn Belt areas have had, and some of the really intense diseases that our more southern areas had. So all in all, central, upper kind of Midwest, I think we did pretty favorable and good this past year.
I think we had pretty darn good weather other than that derecho, obviously, in portions of Iowa. What about the disease side of it? I know that there was in corn, there's still kind of a concern about tar spot. Has that been continued to move further north?
Yeah, that's a great one. Most growers this year didn't observe what I would say is an economical damage to tar spot. However, late in the season, probably past the point of where we'd have observed damage, we did see it move in. So if you're going to be considering corn on corn for next year, or you have a history of tar spot in the field, or even if you've planted a couple of hybrids over the years where tar spot can be an issue, it is certainly one of the top things on our list to look at next year, because we know it again came in late and we got the inoculum for next year, and it's probably going to rear its head if we have any sort of the right conditions weather-wise.
And those conditions, what are those conditions that could make tar spot an issue?
Yeah, humidity, wetness early. I mean, that's what you're looking for. Typically, if you want to take a comprehensive approach to managing tar spot, you really want to start with a genetic standpoint, look at a product, work with your local seed person, and understand on a hybrid by hybrid basis or on a genetic chassis basis which ones perform better. Certainly, you need to look at crop rotation, and you'd want to consider any sort of a fungicidal type use as well, whether that's an early or late application, maybe both. But talk to your local reps, and they'll be able to really help you manage tar spot at the farm level.
Talking with Steve Wilkens. He's the agronomy manager for the Eastern and Central United States for Golden Harvest Seeds this morning. And a reminder, Jerry Barron Sons of Arkansas is our local Golden Harvest Seeds representative. So, Steve, as we switch to soybeans, I know a couple of issues for soybeans has been sudden death syndrome and white mold. Did we see a lot of those two issues this last year?
Yeah, certainly. Again, it depends where you're at in the more traditional areas of STS, say Eastern Iowa, Western Illinois. Yeah, there was a lot of it out there. White mold, yeah, we certainly saw it with as dry as we were in some areas. I would not say that 2020 would have been a chronic white mold type of year, but without a doubt, the known areas that traditionally struggle with white mold certainly had it as well. And that's one that that plagues us year in, year out, especially in the eastern Minnesota, greater Wisconsin, and even into Michigan demographic, where we got high fertile soils. If you're in a dairy operation, a lot of manure, you just got the inoculum and you got the system set up right to continually struggle with white mold. But the good thing with both SDS and white mold is, as newer genetics come out, as I would say chemistry as a whole continues to evolve, there are new and emerging tools that continue to help us manage these two diseases.
What about insect issues? Did we see any of that for corn and beans this year?
Yeah, insects were alive and well, as they always are. Specifically for corn, I think the one you would need to really focus on is the return of corn rootworm, and guys need to really be thinking about what does a multi-year approach for corn rootworm management look like. For those of us kind of tracking the beetles and stuff and the flights and the hatches over the years, we've known that they've never truly gone away. But I think a lot of people across the industry were a bit caught off guard and surprised by just how much they came back this year and the damage that they created. So we like to talk with people and say, if you're in a situation where you have to be multi-year corn on corn, we really need to look at how do we approach corn rootworm management from a trait standpoint, from a multi-prong insect, fungicide, insecticide combination standpoint, insecticides early on in the growing season, like a force that we could apply on the planter. So we can still manage them. That's the good thing. But in a lot of areas, traits alone with some of the pressure that we have is simply not going to be doing the trick.
Talking with Steve Wilkens. He's the agronomy manager for the eastern and central portions of the United States for Golden Harvest Seeds. A reminder, Jerry Barron Sons, our local Golden Harvest Seeds representative here in Northwest Wisconsin. So, Steve, as we get ready for 2020 or 2021, rather, um, sounds like there's going to be a lot of things that producers need to be thinking about here on the trait side of it for corn and for beans.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, let's start with corn. We just touched on the challenges of corn rootworm going forward. We also touched on the disease standpoint of tar spot still being around and having some issues for us. But there's also another one that's continuing to emerge, and that's physoderma, which can affect both the leaf as well as the stalk and can create a lot of problems too. And those are all in addition to, excuse me, the challenges that we've had with our known problems of northern cornleaf blight, gray leaf spot, anthracnose. And so we're really not at a shortage of challenges heading our way going into the 2021 growing season. So for any grower out there planting corn, I mean, it really behooves yourself to sit down with your seed guy and ask him, explain to him your situation and help like a Golden Harvest seed advisor or some of our agronomists work with you guys and figure out, okay, what's the best mode of action or what's the best plan going forward to ensure success. As we look at soybeans, I mean, we find ourselves in the whole dichotomy of traits. What trait platform is best for a grower? Do we want to look at the new XtendiFlex? Do we want to look at the Enlist E3 options? And the nice thing of where we stand with our company is we service and we have an extremely full and robust lineup of both. So we really like to have the conversation with the grower of, what's best for you, what's best for your operation. And then we can come in and we can fit, mix and match. So we don't believe in a one size fits all approach. We're in the unique opportunity to sit back and say, if a guy was a longtime Extend user and he's very interested in continuing on that and going with the XtendiFlex, it's not a problem. Or if he's worried about all the herbicide applications and regulations and stuff, and he wants to go more to an Enlist type area, we're right there too. So it's a neat place to be. Not very many, if anyone else, can really say that across the marketplace. And we find ourselves in a really good position, and we're trying to do the best we can for the growers in those areas.
Steve, is there an issue as well for growers that when they're talking with the folks at Jerry Barron Sons about what they should be using for traits for this year, this upcoming year? We have a lot of fields that have multiple types of soil. I mean, in one field you can go from the clay to then a mixture to hardcore sand, back the other way to clay right away. Does that make it a challenge to try and mix and match some of these traits?
Well, when I see variability like that, I probably don't focus so much on, say, like a trait that we would put into a plant. At that point, I look at more about how do we address the field variability with the genetic component. And so we would want a product that offers broad adaptability, probably one that could offer flexibility to maybe like ear flex. So if you're in a really high producing area and your ear can expand and you can put on an extra, maybe 30, 40, 50 kernels an ear. And if you get more into a stressful scenario, it's going to push back on you, but it's still going to allow for ample upside opportunity. So field variability is, it's kind of the name of the game. If we can get our heads wrapped around that and harness it, there's a lot of bushels to be had on the table for both corn and beans. And because of that, Golden Harvest and Syngenta as a whole runs an incredibly robust testing footprint across not just the upper Midwest, but across the entire Corn Belt. And so we really try to take a peek at and make sure we understand not just how a product performs across a wide geography, but how does it perform in your backyard? And I grew up on a farm with my parents, and it was great how my neighbor's corn did, but that really didn't bother me. It had to perform on my farm, in my growing conditions, in my environment, my management style. And so we try to get as much of that as possible through our testing procedures to make sure we do have all those bases covered when we position a product on a person's farm.
Steve, has Golden Harvest and Syngenta planned their 2020 testing cycle and some of the things they're going to look at? Do you know those plans?
Yeah. So that's one of the neatest parts of the job that I get to have is we do, and I'm personally involved in just what does our testing footprint look like across the market that I serve. And every year we continue to invest and to grow this area of our company. And we've made a really sizable investment again for the upcoming 2021 growing season, where we're actually going to double the amount of some of our earlier to mid stage testings in a lot of key areas. And so that's really big because when you get multiple year looks at products in areas, in versions you're going to sell them in, that helps build confidence. I can look back and let's take a look at calendar year 2018, 2019, and 2020, all very different years. And we found ourselves this past fall where the new corn and soybean products we brought to market, we had extra testing of all of these chassis across those years. That gives me a significant amount of confidence because I don't know what 2021 is going to be like. No one does. But I've seen products now under hot and dry, cold and wet, early planted, late planted, heavy disease environments, tar spot, corn rootworm, like we were just talking about. And I can almost assure all of us that the 2021 growing season is going to have components of it. While it'll be different, it gives a lot of confidence for us and then for our customers too to have a good idea of when we go into an area with the background of how these things are going to work. Because we don't, the last place we want to be is to have a position out of place on a person's farm. That's never a good situation for anyone involved.
That's Steve Wilkens. He is the agronomy manager for the Eastern and Central United States for Golden Harvest Seeds. A reminder, Jerry Barron Sons of Arkansas are Golden Harvest Seeds representative here in Northwest Wisconsin. This is the WRDN Morning Farm Report.